Hi everyone. Today's guest is Vaibhav Shrivastava, a Ph.D. and postdoctoral researcher at Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences at the Department of Energy and Technology, Agricultural Technology and Systems. I personally am familiar with Vaibhav from Kent University, and yes, we have the same. We worked in the same lab. It's really nice to meet you again here at SLU.
Yeah, indeed, it's quite a surprise that at the same time we both can be here and we can do this. So it's been a long time coming.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Sure, my pleasure.
So I will immediately start maybe with somewhat hard questions.
For sure. I mean, it's important to give the science community some origin of the things, no?
Yeah. So our global food production system relies heavily on fertilizers and making the fertilizer production a cornerstone of feeding the world. However, as you know, of course, the current linear production model is posing some big concerns for the environment and humanity. So like the nutrient scarcity and phosphorus limitation and emissions. So could you tell our listeners about the key issues with synthetic fertilizers production today?
Yeah, actually, before we talk about the synthetic fertilizers itself, we need to know that, as you have already introduced in the question, that they are a bit problematic. But why they are problematic is basically lies behind that why they have been produced. So just to give you a key fact about the production of the synthetic fertilizers, generally when we talk about the nitrogen, which is the source of life on the earth, nearly 50% of total population on the world currently are responsible directly or indirectly by the Haber-Bosch process itself, which is quite interesting if you see. That means if we count in this room, so basically we are two of us, so it will be 100% round here because of our ages. But that is a fact. And of course, every boon comes with a bane. So of course, this has helped a lot in the Green Revolution during the earlier times. But of course, when you're producing that much, then you are relying a lot on the synthetic outputs already. So there is one of the biggest problems is the resource scarcity itself. Like in the case of phosphorus, like if you might have already been familiar, like how does it work? It's geographically polar. So when geographically polar things happen, the thing is it creates a demand into the market that how it could be dictated. For example, like currently, most of the resources are either with China or with Morocco. So in that case, like they can dictate the prices. And that creates a problem for the countries, especially in the European Commission itself. So this is one of the problems. Now the second problem arises, even if we can produce the synthetic fertilizers from here, I mean, as you know that nitrogen is in the air, why don't we just extract it? We actually do that. But that comes with a lot of external inputs. For example, the carbon dioxide emissions from the Haber-Bosch process nearly contributes to around 1 to 2% of global carbon dioxide emissions, which is a bit like crazy if you think about it. So this is something which is a cornerstone on why we need to basically look into a possible alternatives of the bio-based fertilizers. Another problem which could come with is due to the nutrient imbalances in the system itself. For example, like even as I told you that we can extract the nitrogen from the air, but of course then we are depleting the nitrogen in the air. And then a nitrogen imbalance will happen, which will create further challenges. So these are some of the key factors. Of course, we can have a 2 hours discussion about just how bad are the synthetic fertilizers and how they can affect the environment. But of course, these are some key factors which I think a general public and your listeners can relate to.
Yeah. So why I wanted to first start discussing first synthetic fertilizers, because as I know, your research is in the new alternative fertilizers that you mentioned, bio-based fertilizers. But perhaps before we jump into, I really want to ask you everything about the bio-based fertilizers, but maybe it's good to introduce to the audience what is the circular economy and how does it differ from the traditional linear model?
Yeah, so basically right now, first, as you already know, that linear model is basically the model that we are following. The world population is growing up quite tremendously at an exponential rate. and that requires more food, as simple as that. So for that, we are currently focusing that we produce the fertilizers, synthetic, we put it in the soil, and after that we discard them. So there is no circularity into the system. It's like take, make, and break approach, which is a bit problematic, alongside, of course, the environmental consequences of this process. However, the linear and the circular, as the name suggests, is like putting whatever we have took from the system back into the system. So there, how it relates in the simple words. So in this case, like basically, here the concept of circular economy could be explained in a way that, for example, if we are we are putting the fertilizers on the field. After that, we have some agricultural residues. Somehow we process those agricultural residues into a form of a fertilizer and we put it back into the field. So the loop is closed in that case. So this is how I want to introduce the concept of circular economy in this perspective.
Yeah, I think like I have several times posted on my social media, but of course I have very few followers. I think this circular concept that we are promoting today seems like if we look at historical development, maybe you can also give a little bit of description, but in a way it seems like coming back to our initial way of living, because when historically our ancestors used to recycle everything, reuse it until the last point.
Indeed, the thing is like this is where the key term of word ancestors come into account, because you know that the green revolution is quite a new thing. I mean, not as new as us, but still it is quite a new thing. The thing is like before the green revolution, actually to maintain the soil fertility, like farmers actually used to put the inputs such as manure and do like multiple kinds of farming or planting like multi-crop systems just to maintain the soil fertility. And after the Green Revolution, of course, it boosted the yields of the products by quite high to meet the global demand, but it also comes with a negative impact. So regarding the historical point of view, you are quite correct. And also fun fact is that actually the use of manure, if you trace it back into the history, it actually comes first from the Roman times. The Romans actually used to do it. And from there, so this is not a new concept, but how we are going to develop it, because now we have a better technology. So how we are going to further develop it will, in my opinion, will affect the further future generations quite a lot.
Yeah. So I think after realizing that how much harm we are causing to the environment, we're starting to perhaps promote more sustainable way, meaning like the sustainable way being the how it used to be like in the old times where you could use like several. But I think it's also interesting, to know how does like applying circular economy approach to like fertilizer production create more sustainable solution, like some examples maybe perhaps to the listeners, because you listed one way of that we are closing the loop, that we are reusing the once produced product, we are reusing it, but maybe there are also other advantages that listeners could know.
Of course, like let's say that we have already I think this is a good time to introduce the concept of the bio-based fertilizers alongside the other methods, in my opinion. So let's first talk about the bio-based fertilizers. So as the name suggests, anything which is waste but originated from a bio-based origin. For example, the manure, the agricultural residues, or anything similar related to it. Even the food that you throw in the garbage. Okay, it could also be like reused in a way. It could be utilized and again put back into the system. So of course, this is the traditional way of doing things. Like for examples, in India these days, it's quite popular to do composting. Even like there are challenges associated with composting, which we might discuss later in this talk. But like it is also quite interesting to see that a population of a country which is so much is actually also doing somehow a circular economy system. Alongside that, there are other ways also. Like for example, if you know a bit about the wastewater itself. In case of wastewater, we can actually recover quite a lot of phosphorus from it, because currently the wastewater systems are highly underutilized. Like of course, there are quite some systems in the Netherlands as well as in Germany, which are currently producing some fertilizers which are rich in nitrogen and phosphorus from wastewater, but it's still quite underutilized. I'll just give you a brief example of circular economy in terms of resource recovery. The thing is, so currently we have in the world, we have around 400 billion liters of wastewater production every year by the humans. Now, if we could somehow make it into a potable water perspective from which we can put it into agricultural irrigation. So basically, it can relate nearly about the area of the size of Spain. Okay, so this is quite interesting if you see from the perspective that how much potential it actually lies around there. So of course, after that, there are also another solution of circular economy that we know that there are always microbes everywhere, and there are something which is known as the nitrogen fixing bacteria. Okay. So if we somehow find a waste stream which is rich in nitrogen fixing bacteria and we can put it into the soil, then even if we are not putting excess nutrients in the soil, it can like mineralize nitrogen and it could make it available for the plants, which is another method. And of course, like there is one thing which generally like we don't talk in our society is the potential out of the aquaculture and water streams. For example, the fish waste streams. If you go around the coasts of Costa Brava, I don't know, but you see that there is a slight smell of fish around there, of the dead fish. You can actually use this fish to produce products like omega-3, collagen, or even like the biochar if you are utilizing them correctly. I think now European Commission is quite focused on these particular perspectives on recovering from this waste stream also. So these are some brief examples of how you can recover it.
So I think it's for the listeners as well. Instead of using the scarce nutrients and the mining or wasting a lot of energy in, for example, the Haberbush, like nitrogen fixation, that we are wasting a lot of energy, and energy comes from the fossil fuel. Instead of that, we are already using from the waste or organic waste, we are using all of it in a meaningful way to reuse it in our system, in our production system. Yeah. And wastewater, you mentioned, I think that's incredible. Like there is huge potential. Also, when I was preparing for this interview, I read, I really like the sentence that there's a water scarcity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The biggest problem with the wastewater actually that there are technologies which can actually recover it quite effectively. The problem is the legislation itself. Okay. So around there, we also need to do a bit more research, like how we can make a legislation feasible, especially from the European perspective, because I think Singapore and other countries are doing a very good job in this thing.
Yeah.
I think as much as I remember, I'm not 100% sure, but I think nearly 50% of their wastewater is actually recovered into potable water, which is quite fascinating.
Yeah. I would say perhaps maybe with wastewater I don't work, but when I work with manure, I came across the same limitations from the legislation. So I think there is also for manure, excess manure, especially in Europe.
In Europe, my God. In Europe, the thing is like nearly 1.4 billion tons of manure per year is like getting produced. That is equal to, if you put them in a pile, okay, it will nearly result about 500 Mount Everest, okay. So you see like how much is there, okay. And that is where the question comes, that what could be actually be done from this manure? Because if this manure is left untreated, then it has its own significant problems, such as the ammonia emissions, which is very bad for the human health, alongside, of course, the eutrophication and other things, which I think like your scientific audience might quite be familiar with.
Yeah. I think one of the also issues with manure when we were discussing somewhere in Italy, it's related to my PhD project, that yes, we need to transport the excess manure. Then, I mean, it is a circular way. Then you are also emitting with the transportation from Europe to different parts of the world.
Yeah.
So I think this is still, because this is something emerging and still being adopted in different ways, being discussed and being rechanged. So there is still, it's ongoing, right?
Yeah, indeed, that is something that that is quite interesting to think that regarding the transportation, that when you're transporting the manure from one place to another, then it will have its own amount of like carbon dioxide equivalent emissions and other related things. And I mean, now this is more getting common in the areas of Belgium, Netherlands, as well as Germany, that they are start having the decentralized processes. Like every farm has its own like manure plant or something like that, where they put the manure into a system and they recover either energy or nutrients or both out of it. So in that way, the transportation cost is reduced, and of course, they also get like carbon credits in some of the cases.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of the practical solutions. But of course, like when we are talking about from the global perspective, especially from the country from which like we belong, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, when the country is developing or underdeveloped, then the economic criteria becomes much more. The thing is, if you don't have money to put, then how you can basically afford those technologies, because you have some other priorities first to get over with.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the critical points which I always think whenever I'm looking at a new technology, that all right, this is feasible from the European point of view, but is it feasible from the rest of the world point of view?
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that, yeah, is still needed to be discussed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. In my country, I think in Kazakhstan, at least,
Yeah.
circular economy is still there. It's not a new concept. People are still adopting it, so we haven't shifted from circular economy. It's, you will even notice it in daily life. How people treat they don't want to have too much of excess
Yeah.
or too much of waste, so they try to reuse it until last point. Therefore, when I heard the circular economy and I really understood the concept, for me, this was not novel at all.
Yeah, I kind of understand your perspective. The thing is, like, circular economy is not only important, like, because I have a personal reason why I wanted to go into this field also. Because chemical inputs are not always good. Okay, I'll explain you because I come from the city of Bhopal. Did you ever heard about it?
No.
The city of Bhopal is infamous for one of the chemical disasters. Like after Chernobyl, it is known as the one of the most worst disasters in the planet. A lot of amount of methyl isocyanate gas has been emitted into atmosphere, into my city, unfortunately, and it killed quite a lot of people. Unfortunately, due to how we are talking, and this will be published, so I cannot say like how many people are actually killed, because the government estimates and the people of Bhopal estimates will be a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
But still, in my city, in that area where the factory was located, still the people are born with deformities. You know what is the most interesting part about this story? That factory was producing pesticides and fertilizers. So now you understood my motivation of coming into this field a bit. So it is not only bad for like from the environmental point of view, but it could also endanger life after a point of time, if not managed properly, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So this is also quite a sad story, but I think it is important for the people to know that what could be the extreme that it could actually create an issue.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But of course, we can talk it globally. In general, it's easy to talk. But if we really focus on Europe, because both of our studies are based in Europe, and all our data sets that we have, this is there is a need for implementing circular economy, or the whole concept of circularity, and shifting, because the production systems require somewhat transformation in this way to remain more sustainable and also to harm less the environment. Okay. And we discussed about also the bio-based fertilizers and excess manure, wastewater. So, and then the circularity, when it's implemented in a proper way, brings a lot of solution to these issues that we are having. Wastewater that is being just that is just sorry.
Yeah.
That is just there, and we are trying to recycle it.
Recycle it.
Manure, excess manure. We are having a lot of problems. The nitrogen leaching, and also because of the groundwater is closer to the surface.
Surface, yeah.
Yeah, we are having a lot of issues as well. And then here again, we are implementing circular economy, circularity via bio-based fertilizers.
Yeah.
We hear this term a lot: bio-based fertilizers, bio-based fertilizers. You can write it together. You can write it with a dash or
Yeah.
it's interesting for me because a few years ago I interviewed also Chargo Aiko, who actually talked about this term.
Yeah.
That it is being still under discussion. I think a few years passed by, and now you recently graduated. So I want to ask you again: is this term still will remain relevant, or is it under discussion that this terminology will shift?
For that, first I want to know your opinion. When you hear first time the bio-based fertilizer, what is the first thing that comes in your mind?
Biofertilizers.
Biofertilizers basically is anything which is obtained from a biosource. Okay. What we are focusing on currently, we are basically focusing on something which could be derived from the waste. Okay. So yeah, for now, this particular term will work fine. Actually, it was the title of my thesis also. Okay. So this particular term will work fine. However, the thing is, it's not always compulsory. I'm going to get so much backlash for this thing, okay? But it is not always compulsory that the bio-based fertilizers always refer to a good thing, okay? For example, I'll give you a brief explanation. For example, we are recovering ammonium nitrate and ammonium sulfate in the liquid form from the manure. Now, these products have a potential to leach equally as compared to the synthetic fertilizers, if not more, because of their liquid nature, especially when the soil is sandy. But the thing is, let's say that there is no leaching risk for our scenario, but are they improving the soil quality? Yes or no?
That's tricky question.
That's the tricky question. So the thing is, in my opinion, like the future research should focus more about the regenerative nutrients. The term could be a bit slightly changed to the regenerative nutrients, that it's not only replacing the synthetic fertilizers, but it's also more focused about improving the soil quality.
Yeah.
So I think that is where the future research should lead to, and maybe around there, that's the coined term of bio-based fertilizer might slightly changed. There is a new term actually these days which I also used in my thesis of tailor-made fertilizers, which is basically like a combination of two bio-based fertilizers according to their properties. For example, if there is a soil which is like quite, we know that, okay, it is deficient in nitrogen, phosphorus, but not in potassium. So we mix two bio-based fertilizers and in which are rich in nitrogen and phosphorus, and we apply it on the soil, like tailored. So yeah, there are multiple terms which I'm hearing from all across the commission that are getting coined, but yeah, still, in my opinion, when we are talking about the bio-based fertilizers itself, it's quite critically important to also talk about the soil quality and how they are affecting the soil quality.
To stay more, how to say, not subjective, but more with objective.
With more objective. That the thing is like, if I be very critical in this thing, then yeah, the thing is like we need to like coin a term in which we are not just like in a race to remove the synthetic fertilizers and getting the bio-based fertilizers. As I told you in the starting of the interview, it's not easy to remove synthetic fertilizers. Okay, I mean, a particular thing which is nearly responsible for 50% of global population, I don't think like it could be removed that easily. It will be a slow and gradual process.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Also, I think the farmers, if they have bad experience after several years, they will not be willing to come back using this fertilizers again.
Yeah,
perhaps.
indeed. Actually, like around here, I want to point out that I actually, in my research, I have done 4 years of field trials in the region of Belgium, and also 1 year of field trial in Netherlands, and some part in Spain also. So the thing is, like there, I noticed one thing, that farmers are willing to work with a bio-based fertilizer only given if that they are going to like they are either getting a kind of a subsidy on it, or they are part of a project or something like that. The thing is, for them, in a practical point of view, it's difficult to apply the liquid-based fertilizers. Okay.
I agree. I have a lot of problems
Yeah.
with fertilizer
So the
every
thing
year.
is, like
Yeah.
for biochar, maybe they are a bit more acceptable.
Mhm.
But from liquid fertilizers, they are not very happy. Because I also known this from my experience. Because first of all, it's difficult to handle. Okay.
Mhm.
And alongside that, like, of course, there are more challenges of a smell and social perspective also, like
Mhm.
how the people are actually perceiving it. So yeah, there are these challenges, but I think like these challenges are not something that could not be overcome. So this could be overcome in the future time. So I am very hopeful about this thing.
Yeah, I really liked your point that you
Yeah,
mentioned. I think that's quite a very observant view that you have, is that, it's not about replacing synthetic fertilizer immediately.
yeah,
It's about promoting sustainability. At the same time, we have to prioritize the soil health. We shouldn't forget about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very important. I mean, for me, the major thing is I can sit here and talk everything good about the bio-waste fertilizers. But if it's already that good, then why it's not that acceptable? So that's why we need to see the both sides of the coin to make a honest decision. And as a scientific community to which I'm addressing currently, it's very important to see both the sides of the coin and make an honest decision. Because when you know what is wrong, then you have an ability to correct it. That is really important.
Yeah. For me, actually, because I'm still performing my field experiment,
Yeah.
every year the problem I have is with liquid fertilizer, finding the machinery.
Yeah.
And therefore, also when they plant the winter crop and it starts to grow, it's rainy in Belgium.
Mm,
I'm talking about the Belgium case, and
yeah.
then it starts to grow, and then you will have maybe few days. Within those few days, you must be able to arrange the machinery to fertilize. Otherwise, it will be already, you would already miss applying the fertilizer.
Yeah.
So for me, I was also, I understand that the chemical form, like the ammonia-based fertilizer, because it's easier in that way. It's easier to extract this fertilizer type. I completely understand that, but if this could be changed, if the liquid, or there could be also support to like application machineries that I don't know, Europe is also considering to promote not only the fertilizer part, also advancing on the fertilization machinery part as well.
Yeah.
I think that would be also, yeah.
Yeah, and indeed, like a combination of the machinery, which can also promote the precision agriculture alongside the application of the bio-based fertilizer, is
Yeah,
a
I will
solution.
agree. Yeah.
But where is the problem comes in this case? Money. Okay. So yeah, I mean, but as you might have already pointed out this thing that a specialized machinery is required for the application of these fertilizers, which is a bit tricky sometimes to find.
To generalize, to summarize this point, in which direction do you see this bio-based fertilizer or circular economy going in few decades?
In few decades, I think that eventually, like if I talk from an emotional as well as a scientific point of view, both together, we don't have any choice. Okay, like how the climate is currently impacting the global world, we don't have a choice but to move forward with the concept of the circular economy. Of course, there are always some if and buts, like which we discussed in this talk also. But the thing is, like, we need to move forward and we need to use the technological implementations that we currently have and we might have in future to make this process much more feasible for not only for the European perspective but also for the world itself.
Mhm.
So yeah.
I think that was a very nice closing point. So to sum up this podcast episode, I have some general questions, if you don't mind. Yeah. What skills do you believe are essential for incoming students entering academia?
The the two major skills which I think are quite important are resilience and openness. Resilience, because academia comes with its own set of challenges. You face one challenge, after that you move to the next, after that you move to the next. So of course the resilience inside your mind, that you need to have a bit of a strong mind, and so that will keep on you moving forward because you need to face one obstacle after another. And openness is something that when you are into academia you always face a new thing. So of course, like, you need to be open to learn a new thing, which is, in my opinion, is a quite an important aspect of academia itself, because it's like an ocean. You cannot ever have enough of it. You will always learn something new, which is also an interesting part if you are into learning. So these will be like two of the most important things. Regarding the skill set, yeah, that you need to know lab or something, in my opinion, that is something, those are tangible skills, so you can learn. So if you are stopping yourself to get into academia just because of those tangible skills, sometimes people have the self-doubt, oh, I'm not smart enough. That's not the case. Everyone can learn. That's why we are surviving as the human species, okay? Because we know how to learn, we know how to adopt with the systems. So I'll say not to worry too much about that, but more be focused on the things which are intangible a bit.
Also, there are actually very nice people to teach you, and I want to mention you personally helped me when I was working in the lab as well. Like a few times, I asked you several times, and also there were other people who were helping me in the lab. I think it's very nice. Yeah, I'm working with a protocol that I'm not aware, and few people. It's, I think, quite helpful. And as you said, if you have resilience, you can learn the skills.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, how do you maintain balance between work and personal life? I'm asking you as a PhD student who recently successfully graduated and starting a new position.
Yeah, indeed, at some points of time, it's quite difficult to maintain it. Plus, like sometimes you are too much involved in work. So that time you think that, all right, yeah, like after a point of time, suddenly one day you wake up and you were like, what I'm doing except going to office and coming back. So around there, the play of work-life principle comes a lot into account. Basically, you should work not for the complete life itself. It's just a part. So just work on that part, and after that, focus on more important things, just such as building a relationship, being with the family, going out with friends. They have the healing power which we cannot even imagine. I have noticed that personally in my case, and I can successfully say that there is one of the major reasons why I finished my PhD at a point of time was due to this reason, because after a point of time I actually got a personal motivation, like in my work-life balance, that all right. So, of course, like there are also other ways which people do, like taking a vacation, getting a bit of their battery recharged in that case. But of course, like for me, it's more about the family itself. Like if I have someone, all right, yeah, I have someone, that people to talk to, I can tell them my problems. So, yeah, I think that plays a huge role in that thing.
Work to live, don't live
To
to
work.
work.
Yeah.
Okay, that's actually your words. I'm
Yeah.
just repeating. Yeah, it's nice.
No, but it's very, that is the principle of life, in my opinion.
What advice would you give to your younger self, and also any advice for incoming PhD students?
To my younger self, I'll give an advice that don't be a hothead. Okay. That is very, very important because, I mean, I have been told by the people before I came to Europe that I have a bit of a temperamental issue. I don't have any more. Okay. But the thing is, like, I have been told this thing by my colleagues and I love them. So that because they told them, because you should always be able to take a criticism. That is very important in research, especially because we have reviewers.
You are always criticized.
Yeah, I mean, you are always criticized. If you will take everyone in a negative way, then it will be create a problem.
But criticism has, I think, its own threshold as well. When it
Yes.
gets too personal.
Maybe we can also talk about a bit about that. The
But
thing,
yeah, in general, I was just that's, I agree.
yeah, but I mean, this is one of the things, okay, that all right, criticism is important, okay. Plus, always to my incoming PhD students, in my opinion, like first of all, choose your topic very wisely. Don't jump into something that you are not sure about, that you can follow it or no. Because I noticed this thing with the graduates, recent master graduates, that sometimes they jump into a topic and they don't know, and after that, at the end of the day, they keep on quitting because they don't have familiarity with the topic. This is not always the case because sometimes, like people learn. That's why the first point, like how adaptive you are to the system, okay, how open you are to the system. So this will be like one of my advices. Second advice will be like basically choosing your group very wisely is very important advice, because the thing is like there is always something, some if and buts in every group, and that's how the group proceeds. So the thing is, it's very important there that you choose your group very wisely. But some people might ask me, like, it's like a blind date. You don't know how it will work, you know. But the thing is, in that case, I have a suggestion. Maybe people can follow it. It's always good to talk to the former colleagues which have recently graduated or recently switched their jobs, and to the current colleagues. So you have both the sides of the coin in your hands. Okay. And after that, make an honest decision. Generally, in my personal opinion, I think that I'll prefer staying away from a group which is like a bit like too much criticism is involved in the group, because sometimes like criticism also demotivates a person. Then your work efficiency is reduced, and then it's like a chain of dominoes. Everything leads to another, everything leads to another.
You mean constant criticism?
Constant criticism, yeah, with sometimes like, yeah. Plus, now I'm a postdoc and you are a PhD. So from postdoc point of view, I also want to say that always be kind to people. Okay. Always be kind to PhD students. That's really important. You don't know how much one word of yours mean to them. You might have just accidentally written the word stupid somewhere while revising a manuscript. They will take it on their heart. It's very important to be professional. And when you are professional, then it's all okay. That's that is the difference between the leader and the boss. Okay. Always try to be the leader. It's difficult, but always try to be the leader and keep away. Like, if you think that there is something that you cannot avoid, such as a toxic environment, then try to be away from that. Like, just focus on your own work, be professional, and go home and maintain that work-life balance, in my opinion.
I just want to congratulate you again about your new position, and then where do you see your research now that you are starting, and also yourself in a few years?
Actually, this is a very interesting question. Let's like, regarding my research currently, I'm actually answering the fourth question of what should have been. Basically, that all right, we have discussed about the bio-based fertilizers, but are they actually sustainable? Because when you are putting those bio-based fertilizers, like we discussed, the machinery and all, okay, then they are also getting some energy inputs like diesel and all those things. So are they actually sustainable? So this is my future work, doing an environmental impact assessment and life cycle assessments of the agricultural systems. And I'm very thankful to SLU for providing me with that perspective, because I'm really enjoying it here. So yeah, I mean, this is where the future research is going. But I really want, in my personal opinion, I really want to set a statement by being a professor eventually in the future generations, because I think, like, it's been a while I'm in academia, and I think I can be the person who know what not to do in academia, because whatever I have learned in my life is always from the mistakes. And mistakes teach you a lot. So that's why I think that hopefully I can be a successful professor. Maybe after some years you can take the interview of one of my students, and after that, no, he's bad. So then it will be problematic. But yeah,
if you're a
hopefully.
professor, I would like to interview you if you would give me some time. But you would be too busy, perhaps. With the
No, I don't. It's always like, time is a matter of perspective, in my opinion. You always have time if you can manage it properly. So yeah.
This was a very nice discussion, actually, indeed. And I think I personally liked it because you remained, of course, optimistic. You justified, yes, the circular economy is, we need it, but on the other hand, we have to remain objective, not too optimistic.
Right.
Yeah, I think
indeed,
that's a great.
Yeah, that is the key message from this thing, if you can take it. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.